probably ought to get moving here.
Yeah, sorry for the derail.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll
no,
have to,
no,
we'll have
it's-
to skip basic because we have no time now.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I want to thank our judges this evening. Abbas, Amir, excuse me, his first time with us as a judge. Carol Acurso, of course you will know, and Mary Long, also one of our longstanding judges. So I appreciate all the effort they put in, and you'll be hearing from them shortly. So I am going to start by stealing the screen. All right. So we're going to start with the basic group and go to show, and we'll do the basic. So we'll run, like usual, we'll run through these very quickly, then we'll come back and let the judges that each pick 3 images in each category to talk about to you. Every image has at least one critique that you can see online. When we do the advanced class tonight, you will see all the critiques since they're from the PSA judge. Okay. Moving on with the subject was curves. And the first one is cars fly over with ease. Cars fly. Now, I'm gonna let you guys read them.
I can't see the titles. There we go.
Okay. So we have 18 images. And there we go. So now we'll go back through them and let the judges talk about the 9 of them. This one does not have a critique. Okay. Make sure I can get this back on the manual here. Okay. Coop curves. Abbas?
Hey, yep. So I can talk about it. Let me know if there is any format about it, or I'll just talk like what I felt about the photo.
Just go ahead and say what you think.
Sure. So clearly, I mean, the theme of this competition is curves, and I felt that first of all, the positives. What I see that I do see some curves here in the photo, and the color is nice, crisp, and but that's about it. I thought that this photo does not like fit very well with the theme of curves. The curves, it doesn't scream. And what is more prominent in the photo is rather than the shape or rather than the curves, it's a color. And that too, there are a lot of distracting elements like in the background. some people in the background, and then even that blue blob, I don't know if that's a person or what. That's again distracting. So I feel that there is still a lot of improvement despite the fact that it does not like conform to that curves theme. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, more curves. Glow bubble, that's Carol.
Okay, so I thought this was a fun use of the curves theme combined with timeliness of the recent winter storm. The star, pun intended, of the show is the spectral highlight at the top of the soap bubble. It draws the eye, and it would have been, I think, a real showstopper had the edge of the bubble there been in focus. As it is, the focus missed by picking the snow area that's mid to low center, either, yeah, looks like behind the bubble. So I would recommend switching to manual focus and maybe also increase the depth of field. Other spectral highlights within the bubble itself are distracting elements and could have been cloned out. And, personally, I think that if you have a large round element as a subject in your photo, that it might be enhanced with a more squared off crop. So I'm not sure that compositionally that was the best choice for the subject. But I do think it has a lot of potential, and the next time we get such weather, the photographer could try it again.
I hope it's not too soon.
Yeah,
35 years.
It could come up here.
Lower slot canyons, Abbas.
Yep. So that's me as well. So this one, I really like the curves. I think that's really, yeah, clearly what I see, what is prominent is the color and the shapes. And I felt that the sharpness was good, that like the technicalities was fine. The contrast seems nice. Just one thing, what I feel is that maybe it seems a tad oversaturated, and probably the colors could have been like, there could have been higher color contrast. Like if you see the background, where kind of, which is like orange, and you can see that there are the highlights, which are not very well controlled. I think that they're either some play with changing the temperature, like between the foreground and the background, that could have like created some more visual interest. And composition wise, I think I like the crop. I mean, if you see the composition, it kind of forms a U or a V kind of a shape, kind of frame within a frame. Your eye is directing into the background, but then when you go to the background, it's the color is not, the color in the background is not as prominent as compared to the other colors. It's kind of intermingling. So otherwise, I like the photo.
Okay. Texas Capitol curves, Mary. Mary?
Okay, I have a lag on my screen. I'm still seeing a red car. I'm going to talk about what I remember about that. About that one. Very nice photo, very nice use of black and white. I thought the composition was pretty strong. Everybody's done this who've been to the Capitol. They've looked up and seen the overlapping curves. So it definitely fits the curves theme very well. I think the focus is pretty good. You've got a lot of layers and a lot of curves and everything. I thought the focus looked pretty tight, and I thought it seemed to me slightly underexposed. I would like to have seen kind of a pop of really bright pure light somewhere. The tonality was just a little bit gray, but in general, that is nitpicky, because in general I thought it was a very good, very well composed, very good use of black and white, very interesting photo. So I would just say maybe a little more contrast, pop it just a little bit more with some bright pure white. Otherwise, I thought it was very strong and certainly very very relevant to theme.
Okay, thanks. Next is Carol again, Star Trails over Double Arch.
Okay, this was my favorite Star Trails image in this competition, and that includes the two in the advanced group. This image, the photographer pushed reality to a graphic while retaining realistic elements that make it fun for the viewer. Specifically, the outline of the hillside, which otherwise is totally blacked out, but it gives a nice strong diagonal line culminating up at the right edge, right at the concentric, the center of the Star Trails. Then you have the view through the double arch, and you can see the Star Trails continuing through there uninterrupted.
It's everybody's been.
Sorry. What? Okay. The strong graphic quality is further enhanced with pushing the blue color, which was very effective and contributed to the emotional impact of this image. The variations, there's some variation in the lines, and maybe there were some clouds or something in the sky, but that gave it a very nice texture to the linear quality. I thought it was a really nice juxtaposition between the curves of light and the curves of geology. Symbolism and metaphors abound in this issue.
All right. Next, Colosseum curves. Next, the race, Mary. Wait for her lag to catch up.
She said she was going to log off and log back in.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll come back to this. Flamingo, no comments. The long way around. Frozen curves. Noble. I changed the spelling on this. I hope I did that correctly. It's either Noble or Nobel, but I think it's Noble, given the crown.
Yeah, you really threw me off because I thought that maybe it was supposed to be Noble, but I wasn't going to make that jump.
Yeah, I just guessed, and I apologize if I guessed wrong, but she looks very noble, so I went with that.
And you all have to excuse me for reading, but I make such extensive notes that I want to try to get through it, and that way you can re-listen to it on YouTube if you need to. This is possibly the most unique pregnancy shot I've ever seen. It's really striking. It's a glorious interpretation on the curves theme. That being said, and everything else is going to be positive, the cropping at the bottom is, to me, a bit too abrupt. If you had space in the original image, I would look at that again. Regardless, I love the horizontal orientation to the portrait. It gives the subject room to expand. And the word for her, besides noble, is that she has so much, there's so much gravitas that she has in this picture that it's just extremely striking. She dominates the hectic traffic scene behind her. It's like she's the queen of New York. There's this squared bright image off to the right is slightly distracting. I don't know if you can tone that down a little bit, but it wasn't particularly important. And I felt all the other spectral highlights really added to sort of the story of the image. Depth of field, sharpness, colors and shadows, the skin tones are all really well done. It's very beautiful. She has a little crown on. It's not real obvious in the photo, and it's kind of a fun element to discover. If I were shooting this again, if this was like a model setup or something, maybe something larger on her head, but it's fine the way it is, and it's a beautiful image.
Agreed. Okay. Brace yourself. Abbas.
Yep. So this one, I think what I like, I definitely like the intent of the photographer, that they wanted to capture the curve that is formed by the road, and because of the physics, I mean, it is even exaggerated with the fact that they took it with reasonably a wide angle kind of a shot, maybe 24 mm or something. And then I also see that the intent was right in terms of exploring the curve of the tree in the foreground, and then that shape forming the curve. But having said that, I think it could have been explored a little more. And I think if the photo was technically like improved in certain areas, then probably it could have been a strong shot. But right now, what I felt that even the light was a little flatter. If you see the highlights, they were not like well controlled. And I see it is a black and white photo. I do see like deep blacks, but the tonal range doesn't seem like too great. I mean, I feel the lack of the pure whites and even some grays in the lighter areas. That is missing. And then I also felt that the photo was a little crooked, or maybe it's something off a little bit, because if you look at the bottom right where your eyes are being drawn into, do you see some pillars on the cars, and that is a little bit crooked. So that is the only thing that maybe a minor, but I noticed. And also the eye is like, by virtue of that curve taking your attention to the background, it goes there. But other than that, I don't see any distinguishing factor, any distinguishing like some contrast or some like defocus or some other element that is adding to that kind of a contrast. So that was one thing. And then again, going back to the branches, the deep blacks, I love those deep blacks in the branches, but then it's not well kind of handled, because those deep blacks, and then you come to the trunk and it's like absolutely different tone. And those deep blacks, even I think they could have been handled a little better. Like if you see there is some kind of an aura or some kind of an edge over the branches. The bottom right, I found a little distracting, the bushes, and even on the right hand side, there is a lot of going on. So maybe recomposing could have helped here.
Okay, thanks. Is Mary, are you back yet? No.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you are. Okay. Well, then I'm going to
Yeah.
quickly go back to, oops, this one, the race.
I like this one a lot. It made me smile. It made me laugh, and I was pulling for the one on the bottom. Anyway, it's clever. Curves are not really a dominant element, but it certainly it fits. I love the colors overall, because the dominant colors, the kind of orangey versus the blue, are complementary colors, which always makes it pop. The composition itself I find very nice. And so altogether a pleasing, amusing, fun photo, and I like the title and works really well. The only very small quibble I have with it is that seems like if you're going to zoom in like this so close, everything just absolutely needs to be tack sharp, and the focus is just a little bit soft. Other than that, I think it's a really cool photo, an amusing photo, technically well done. And the color, that combinations of colors, there's something about that kind of cool blue versus the warm orangey sienna. And then the textures of the snails themselves, I just found very pleasing. And I think it's a very strong photo.
I have been assured that no snails were harmed in the making of this photo. And then moving along to A Fleeting Glimpse. That is also you, Mary.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. It's so intriguing. I mean, you know basically what it is. It's smoke in the darkness. I love the ephemeral quality to it. I love how simple it is. It's just texturally and compositionally, it's just a beautiful photo. Again, the one quibble I have is the lower left, where I stared at that, whatever that is, the source of the smoke, for a long time. Like, is that a candle? I was trying to zoom in. I actually got out a magnifying glass, like, what on earth is that? And that distracted me. Compositionally, even if I had known what it was, I think it still would have been distracting. So in my mind, I was like saying, okay, where can you crop to, either because it's so blurred, I was completely unable to identify it, and I just kept staring at it, even though I really liked the rest of the photo. I would, if it were mine, I would have tried to maybe tilt it and crop out so that just that little red glowing ember was showing. And that would have kind of made it more mysterious, like, what is that exactly? Without the distracting, like, what the hell is that down there? But I love the smoke and the dark and the curves. Again, works very well with the theme, and it just has a really good feel to it. It's not the kind of photo we see very often, and I was very impressed with it. I thought it was really cool.
Okay. And that's all the critiques we have for this category. So, show judges selections. All right, so the results. We have 2 honorable mentions and 3 places. First honorable mention was Sabrina Lunsford for Noble. I hope I got that right. Next honorable mention is Louis Abalafia for Lower Slot Canyons. Second place was Texas Capital Curves, Susan Park. And there was a tie for second place, actually, with Donna Smith's The Race. And first place was Star Trails over Double Arch by Louis Abalafia. Congratulations to Louis. I'm going to move on. I think if we're going to discuss certain images, we'll come back at the end if we have time. I just want to make sure that we can get through all the images. We'll do the People's Choice here. So we have 3 places, gold, silver, bronze. The bronze goes to Sabrina Lunsford for A Fleeting Glimpse. Silver goes to Louis Abalafia for Lower Slot Canyons. And gold goes to Susan Park for Texas Capital Curves. All great images. We had so many great submissions this month. I'm really impressed. Okay, move along to the intermediate category. First image, rack. Okay, as you can see, more great images. Go through them with the judge's commentary now. Let's see, get my list here. Okay, this is rack. We don't have any comments here. Let me make sure this is on manual. Okay, current events, Abbas.
So this one, I really like the colors here. I mean, the play of the blue and greens, the hues, I think a little subtle. Still, I like that somehow. It's kind of an abstract photo, but not so much of an abstract because you still see some water bubbles in there or oil or whatever it is. So maybe I felt that it you do see some curves in there, but still it could have been more relevant in terms of sticking to the theme. But still, overall, I like the photo. Also, you can argue that we can the photo could have been better, like maybe if cropped a little bit more. And then um, I see that in the center, there's the white, the highlight that could have been controlled a little better, so that it gave like more of a uniformity in terms of that abstractness, if that's a word. And then colors also, I felt that the right side is a little more prominent than the left side. Probably that could have been enhanced or explored more. But yeah, I think it's a decent image that had some potential if the photographer played a little bit more about around it. And yeah, probably the subject matter could have been like explored a little further to create like a strong impact on the viewer.
Thank you. Oh, back on the screen. Avocet and high key. Mary.
Okay, finally a bird photo that, however high quality, doesn't look like all the other bird photos. So as you can see, I'm not a bird photo person. We get some really good ones, but it's like, oh yeah, another bird photo. This one really stands out to me. It's got this, the high key use is very strong. It has a very striking, very unusual look, very interesting. Curves, yeah, they're not, the curve is not the dominant, but there's definitely a strong curve in the body of the bird and another, contrasting curve in the beak of the bird. And I liked it a lot. It almost looks like a drawing, I just found it really striking and really stand out among bird photos. It catches that peak of action with the leg being lifted. I'm looking in to see. I know bird people want to see the highlight in the eye. I don't know if that's there or not, but I'm not as intent on that as a lot of people are. So all in all, very striking, very strong image, very, very different looking. So it really catches the eye. And the only quibble I had on it is I think it's cropped a little too close on the right. I want a little more space there. I like it offset, so you don't want to have the bird completely centered, but I find it's just pushed over a little bit too far to the right. I wish we had just a little bit more of the white space on the right side. All in all, really, really impressive image. And yeah, it's a bird image that I could love rather than just admire. I know you birders, it's very hard to shoot birds, and I know how hard you work, but I really appreciate one that's just different. And I find this one fits the bill. I was very impressed with it.
Okay. Few without comments. Flo. Taking a stretch. Look, there's a curve. Vinyl rainbows. Next, industrial squeeze. Abbas.
Yeah. So this one, I think composition-wise, I think it's really strong. It's really catchy. Nice use of the square frame and beautiful curves. I mean, taking your eyes right into the main subject, and also other than the curves, those kind of the diagonal lines, they are also grabbing your attention and moving your eye towards the center. So I really like that in terms of composition. I think the selective use of color was also nice, that because now other than the center, your eyes are not staying too much on the edges and on the non-central part of the photo. So I like that as well. And I think the technicalities, the color and contrast, I think that was also well balanced. I like the photo overall. My only gripe with this photo was that the subject, the what is in the center, I do not fully understand it. Maybe it's a ball, or maybe it's just me who is not getting it. And the reflections or whatever the artifacts that you see there, the orange, I think that could have been explored a little further. Uh, so other than that, I think it's a pretty decent image and also unusual one.
Okay, thank you. My tongue is stuck to the ice. Mary, you're going to tell us if that's true or not.
This one hurt. I've actually got when I was a kid, I had my tongue stuck to the ice, so I always cringe when I even think about it. So this one kind of confounded me, and I laughed at getting assigned to do 2 snail photos this time. It has so much potential. Technically, for me, it just doesn't work. The red, I like the overall weird redness of it, but then again, I can't tell what's going on. The title kind of tells me what's going on, but I'm like, where's the tongue and where's the snail? And I can see it's kind of encased in ice, and it just confounded me. I stared at it a lot, trying to figure out what was going on. And the big blobby, like left thing on the side that's out of focus, and then the kind of out of focus thing at the top, it vexed me. I kept turning my head and trying to zoom in and figure out exactly what was going on. So I think the lack of control of the depths of focus, if I could see what was going on, I have the feeling this could be a really, really cool photo, really striking commentary on our recent, snowpocalypse. But it vexed me because I couldn't really see what's going on. And the title presumably told me what was going on. I mean, I guess it's a snail encased in ice, and I think that's probably it. But the fact that I couldn't pick out any of the details, especially that such big portions of it are out of focus, just really annoyed the hell out of me. And then the colors are so weird and red. So I don't know what's going on with the color balance. And I'm ranting on and on about it because it has the potential to be such a weird and wonderful photo, and something you're not going to see very often in Texas or anywhere probably for that matter. And it had such potential. The fact that the depth of field wasn't controlled, and I don't know if this color is manipulated and overwarm and red, but it came so close to being really fascinating, and it didn't quite make it. And I wish we could go back and reshoot it so I could actually see what's going on and have the color balance better controlled and have the depth of field going on. And it could have been so really cool. And as it is, it's interesting and perplexing, but it's one of those, like, just missed it. So it's certainly fascinating photo in its flaws as much as in its strengths. So anyway.
Well, in contradistinction to our last snail photo, I cannot assure you that no snails were harmed.
No, is it dead? I don't know.
Probably so.
All right, next image is curvy reflections. Carol.
Okay. It's really nice to see a fine art nude in the competitions. That's pretty rare. And first, I want to say that monochrome is a fairly typical choice for fine art nudes, and it's important to think about that because it removes the emotion of color and lets you focus more on the lines. The lighting is just really beautiful here. You've got lots of texture and the hair on her arms and the droplets, and you can almost feel the skin tones even though it's black and white. Compositionally, this is like really well done in the sense of you have the curve of the hip echoed with the position of the head. You've got your top knee going up to the hip, which leads you right over to that arm that's coming down into the water. You've got the underneath leg that's echoed, that leads right into the rib cage and the breast coming down to the elbow. The shadows echo. You've got the shadow of her stomach with the shadow of her armpit. So it just compositionally, it just works super well. It, could possibly, one could maybe think it's a little tight on the sides, but I don't think so. I think it's more than made up for by the space top and bottom. I like the fact that her reflection tones are lower, and that it's pretty ambiguous. It's not, like a mirror reflection. It's important to remember with people pictures that anthropologically, even with a nude, we're drawn to look at the face. At least that's where, anyway. So we wonder what it is that she is gazing at there in the water. I don't think that we really need to know what she's gazing at there in the water, but I kind of wish that maybe her eye that we can see was open just a little bit more. It's kind of a niggle, but we want to know what she's looking at, and that's kind of the mystery of the shot as well. So, overall, really well done, and it's nice to have a good figure art to discuss.
Great, thanks. Great discussion. Old Settlers Park.
So for this one, three things. I mean, I look at the photo from three perspectives. One, from the theme perspective, which is the curves, I didn't find it relevant to the theme. That's one. Second, it could be a great documentary shot because obviously it's very rare to see snow here in the Old Settlers Park. So I think it's a great documentary shot. Probably, yeah. And the third is just as a typical landscape shot. I think it's a decent landscape shot. Now, talking like if we just take the photo on its merit, being as nature or a landscape photo, I think the composition is pretty elegant, decent, and I like the minimal colors, if at all it has some. I think I really like that. It does have that strong mood of the winter, which is pretty nice. Also, you see the little light hue in the sky, in the clouds. That is also nice. If it was a pure black and white photo, then probably that would have been missed, I feel. And overall, the composition could have been could have been improved if there were some more elements probably in the water, or maybe if the angles were changed, because right now you see that bridge in the middle is a plain horizontal kind of a line in there. But still, I think it's still it works fine, just because the trees, they are nice in contrast, and they're kind of vertical and absolutely perpendicular to the bridge. Your eyes, composition wise, your eyes do go and follow the water path, but after that is not a it's not a very it's not harmonious kind of a transition to the middle ground. But I think, yeah, it's a decent image.
Okay. Hillside Hayfield. Do these pants make me look fat? Tunnel trauma. Curvaceous chickadee blasts off from nest. Carol, you want to talk to us about fast versus slow lane?
Yeah, this is a really lovely, almost pano-shaped image of the Lamar Street Bridge over Lady Bird Lake. Compositionally, the themes curve is prominent with the two arches of the bridge and their reflections. Compositionally, you also have the bisecting center support with its reflection, which is echoed with like the sole street light coming up on this, and I just loved that there in the middle. The title lets you know that there's a juxtaposition in the story here. And it gives you and alludes to the fact that there's tension in this, and you wouldn't need the title to tell you, but anyway. So you have the vehicles on the bridge were shot with a relatively slow shutter speed. It's enough that you get the sense of their motion, but also you can still see their details. And meanwhile, below on the right, you have this lone kayaker that's sitting motionless inside the reflection of the arch. And then somehow underneath him, there are some kind of rainbowed reflections, or I'm not sure what, maybe under the water down underneath him, which are kind of cool and lend like kind of sort of a magical element to the photo. The viewer doesn't know if this is a composite or maybe was just captured with, you know, luck and skill, but that doesn't matter because the story is there. It's a great story. One more thing I'd mention is that there's this kind of hazy quality to the air. If that was deliberate, that I would say is like a very good and very sophisticated choice, because it adds to this kind of hazy, lazy days of summer kind of story behind the picture. And you know, if it wasn't deliberate, you got lucky. But I think if you had used the dehaze and maybe put in more contrast, that might have been a disservice to the image, because it might have further accentuated the light rays that you have coming down out of the clouds up there, which I think would have served to draw your eye maybe out. So anyway, just something to think of. I really liked this picture.
A whiter shade of pale. Tangle. Birth of the Blues. Crooked Branch. Frozen Snowvid Curve. Dark Balloons. Carol.
There we go. All right, so the the critique person that I watched the video way back about critiquing, one of the things that she said, that's Eileen Rafferty, and she said with if you're going to do something, do it intentionally, and this person certainly did. It's very over the top technique. I don't even know what all to say this is. Looks like some solarizing, negative reversal, almost IR, you know, infrared in some of the elements. I mean, I can't even say because I don't do this, but it's almost psychedelic. Compositionally, if you look at just the forms, so compositionally, the main balloon seems to be the primary subject, but the balloons behind it are clustered, I think, a little too closely together to really make the image succeed in terms of forms. So what you have, if you look at it just in terms of forms, and it's a very busy image, and so you have to like almost pull yourself away from that. If you look at it just in terms of forms, you have this real rectilinear forms along the background with the circular and curved forms going across there. And I think that compositionally that's really interesting. And I feel like it could work, but it seems a little over the top, and the horizon seems to be not straight. That doesn't seem to be like important in this image, but maybe it needs a little distortion, geometry corrected to it or something. But that's really kind of a niggle. It's very much an in-your-face image, and it's likable for that sense, but overall it's just too busy.
Okay. Escarpment. And our last image of the category is Moody Red, and that's Mary Long.
Very bold, very striking, very beautiful image. The warm reds totally dominate, and that really works for me. There's some yellow going on. Definitely red predominates, and it really works. Absolutely fits the curves theme. I like it. It's a very kind of graphic image. I don't know what it is, but I don't care because it's so beautiful. Sometimes not knowing what it is a mystery that intrigues me. Sometimes not knowing what it is almost kind of annoys me. And sometimes the image is just so beautiful, I don't care what it is. And that's the case with this one. And rather than just gush and gush about it and how the range of colors, there's a good range of colors from light to dark. It's compositionally, I think, very well balanced and very strong. And I don't like to go on. I always try to think about, okay, what can we do to improve this image? And I think this is an image that is true and completely successful within its own intention. So for what it is, I think it's like a completely successful photograph. It fits the theme, it's beautiful, it has a very limited palette, but it really works. Compositionally very strong tonal range, beautiful balance. I don't know what it is, and I don't care because it's so beautiful. It's kind of mysterious, but not in a way that bugs me. And I sat and stared at it for a long time trying to think, what can I say that's negative? And I can't think of anything because I just love it. I think it's beautiful.
Okay. All right. So we'll now take a look at the judges' decisions. And in this category, I think we had 3 honorable mentions, and I'm going to do it like this: 3 honorable mentions and 3 places. First of the honorable mentions is Abbas in High Key by Cheryl Callan. Current Events by Jim McDaniel. And the last honorable mention is Industrial Squeeze by Gene Thomas. Third place is Curvy Reflections by Nick Grossman. Second place, Tunnel Trauma by Gene Thomas. And first place, Moody Red by Cheryl Callan. We definitely will have to get some comments from the photographers at the end here, because these are some really stunning images. People's Choice selections. The bronze goes to Gene Thomas for Industrial Squeeze. Silver goes to Nick Grossman for Curvy Reflections. And the gold medal goes to Cheryl Callan for Moody Red. I think this is one, there was a strong correlation between the judges and the unwashed masses on this one. So congratulations to all the winners. And now we're going for something a little bit different. We're going to go, the advanced division, as Josh said earlier, was judged by a member of, or a judge from PSA. As we talked about previously, they do offer a judging service, and we're trying it out for the first time. So I'll be interested for everybody's, reaction and get some feedback from you by email if possible, especially if things you like or don't like. But to me, it seemed very consistent with the way we have been doing things. It's just getting a different point of view. And it was nice for me because the judge knew the judge had already used our system before. So it was very, simple to transition to this new method. So we'll take a look at the images. We'll go through them first. Let's see, show. And we'll go to survey. Okay, just go through a quick initial survey.
Hey, Mark, can you move the cursor?
You betcha.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Okay, so now here's where we'll do something that we haven't done before. I'm going to show these images side by side with the critique. And since there were less, our maximum that we can get critiqued from them is 30 images, and we had less than 30. So every image has a critique. So I'm going to just let them sit on the screen for about 10 seconds or so. I'm not going to read the critiques to you. You can all do that yourselves. And just yell at me if I'm not giving you enough time to absorb it.
Is the same information written on our club site?
Yes,
Okay.
they'll be available just like all critiques are. Pretty nice collection. Okay, you probably have a clue what the results are going to be, but here's how the judge picked them. So we have 3 honorable mentions and 3 places. Honorable mention number 1 goes to Steve Burkich for Third Rock from the Sun. Honorable mention for Supernova, yours truly. Steve Burkich again for 1,000 mile per hour rotation. Third place, Deadpool by Dennis Bosserman.
Can you move your cursor, Mark?
Darn it. Wouldn't be me if it didn't happen at least a few times a meeting. Second place, Red is the Rose by Gary Hook. And first place, Tuscan Curves, Haitham Samarchi. Beautiful image.
And that entire set was, whew.
I think me not talking for the whole time made it that much better. Then we got the People's Choice. Okay, 3 places. Bronze for Supernova. Silver, Stone in Time by Gary Hook. And Red is the Rose, Gary Hook for gold medal. All right.
I think one of the things that we're going to have to accept is that every judge has their preferences and it's just one person's point of view. So take them for what they're worth, but take everything with a grain of salt as well. Like, I know I've seen comments like, oh, this judge is really tough. Like, I mean, yes, but it's one person's opinion. So don't let it get you down if you didn't score what you thought you should score. Even when it's us judging, right? It's, yeah, like Ronnie says, it's always subjective. So it is not an absolute statement on your photos.
Did the judge give any kind of feedback on our photos as a group? I mean, this is the first time we've ever done this.
Right.
I think it was a woman that judged, right?
Yes.
Did she give any kind of feedback at all or any other comment outside of the judge's comments on the pictures?
Let me go back. I don't remember. Let me just go back to her email just to see if...
It'd be interesting if she had something else to say.
So, Alan, in regards to what you're saying, I think that's also where the PSA club competitions are going to come in, right? So, like, we'll have portraits, and we'll have 6 submissions, and each submission has to be from a different member of the club. And so, I think in that case, they will be judged as a set if we decide to submit to the different topics, and they do that 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And that's outside of this competition, but I think it would, I think that'd be fun to do. I'm up for it, and I think it'd be fun to, because I think we have, it's so one of the downsides about all of this, right, is like we had minimal abstracts, right? We had landscape abstracts, we had beautiful landscapes, we had bananas, right? We had so many different things, portraits, right? And so it's really hard to always know, it's hard to know like what judge is going to like, are they biased to landscapes? Are they biased to people? Or are they biased to abstract? And so having those, I think having those club competitions is going to be a really fun way to see how our images as a group stack up against other groups. I was talking to somebody earlier this week and I've gone and judged for other clubs and other groups, you know, county 4-H's, and I don't think we've kind of gotten spoiled, and I don't think we appreciate some of how amazing some of these works are. Like, they're so good. Like, personally, I think highly of myself. And I look at photos, I'm like, I'm not as good as I thought. Those are some really good photos, right? Like, I have no problem seeing the people that win because the photos are great. And if you go to other groups, you would be you're gonna look back and be like, like, I'm serious when I tell you, like, our basic group would win in a lot of photo clubs. I've been to them, not around here, but like Guadalupe County and San Patricio County. Like, our basic would mop the floor with them.
So that the primary essence of the question, just how does our club stack? But I was also curious about any other comments she may have had. Is this a process? And really, this is a question for us. Is this the process that we want to continue to support for the advanced group? Unfortunately, I wasn't able to submit pictures because of the cold weather killed my internet. But it was fascinating to watch. And I was curious when we did this how we were going to present the advance. And I think seeing each critique for each image might be a good approach in the future as well. I mean, I like that.
I second that opinion.
Yeah. And I think like what I said at the beginning, I don't know. I mean, I think we will do this most months. I don't know that we'll do it every month. But I really think that even if we don't agree with the person, whoever, like, there's always going to be people who don't agree, no matter who the judge is. But I think getting it away from it always being us, like, we knew whose photos were what. And so this kind of just takes a different approach where it's, they don't know us from anybody, right? So it kind of takes out some of that personality bias that we might have.
Well, and it's clear from seeing these images over and over again, you threw us for a loop, but we can often see what your style does. And I think people that are judging subconsciously or maybe consciously takes that into account. And so that's one of the reasons why I really like having a foreign judge judging our work.
Yeah, and like what Verlin just said, right? If you knew the judges ahead of time, like, you also submit different things, so it also affects what you submit, right? If you know I'm judging, and if you submit a bird on a stick, like, you know it's coming, right? I mean, you just do. But we have no idea who's going to judge these, and so it's really just about putting your best work out there and letting it stand against the others, right? So, I like it. I think we'll try it. We'll give it a couple months, see how it goes. Yeah.
Can we see Mark? Mark, can you show us your supernova and talk about it?
Sure.
Can I ask a question about the judging? What's going to happen if the advanced group submits more than 30 photos?
We probably will only get 30 of them critique. I mean, that's all they'll guarantee me. Now, they may go, if it's 32, 34, they might go ahead and do them, but I really don't have a commitment for that to happen.
But how will that, I mean, I understand the critiques, but how will that fit with the judging, the first, second, third place?
Oh, well, I think that we'll have them critiques for the top 30.
Okay. I didn't realize that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Have we ever had more than 30 submissions in
a group? I don't
think so.
No, not yet, but it will happen. Okay. You wanted to see that. Let me see. Can't get control of my screen here. Oh, no wonder. Okay. Let's go to.
Haytham, what was your other one? You did the one that won, and then that minimalist, like 3 stripes.
Probably the spiral.
Yeah, the walking the dog. It's a drone shot.
I love that one.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Which one?
The drone.
The spiral.
This is Josh's curveball.
Come on, it's literally a curveball.
Yeah, it's cool. Another star trail on a stick.
Yeah.
Okay.
On a rock.
Okay.
That was my first Star Trail shot I ever took.
Well, that's a damn good one.
All right.
Hey, Mark, could you explain what's going on here? That's beautiful.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to take any credit. This really should not be a winner for imagination because I got the idea from somewhere else, but I got it from somebody in PSA. I was going through other people's pictures and I found this and they described their technique and anybody can do this. And that's the reason I brought this up because you can take virtually any image and there's a Photoshop action you can create that makes some cool pictures. It's not, you know, you don't know what you're going to get with each one. And this was one that I, you know, just liked a lot the way it turned out. But this is not creativity really because I didn't create this action. It's just I like the way it looks, and so I wanted to share that with everybody. It was a flower, as you might guess, and it uses some twirls and reverse twirls, and puts it all together in one image, and you get some pretty crazy results. So that's all I can say about it. I've got several of them on Instagram if you want to see what different effects were. But if you're interested, I'll post or I'll send you the script in Photoshop, and you can try it on any of your images. And I think you'll like the results.
Yeah, action.
I really like this picture. First of all, so was this Dennis?
Yes, this is mine.
What is that?
So tell us what you use, ring lighting, and how's the background so black? And
Well, actually, I was out walking on Bull Creek, and there's this old water vessel there, and I noticed this centipede was dead in it, and that's the background was just very dark that day, and there was some sunlight shining on the centipede, and I took about 10 shots trying to get one with perfect focus on it, but because it's all handheld and everything like that. And then I cleaned it up a little bit in Photoshop, but other than that, that's just some green growth on that, and the centipede was just laying there just like that.
I was sure it had to be done, you know, in the studio with perfect conditions. That's really amazing.
See, that's Josh's maxim, right? If you post dead animals, you tend to win.
And it's almost an abstract, so it scored highly with me.
Yeah. Hey, Cheryl, can you talk about the red one?
Yeah, I'll bring that up.
Oh yeah.
I think people were asking, so.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll bring it up. You can go ahead and start talking though.
It's oil and water.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's oil and water.
Cool.
I was just having fun during, the COVID thing where you stay home and yeah.
I shot bananas. I mean, what do you do?
I mean, that's all it, boils down to.
Well, how was it lit? Because the light's very.
I actually did a light on the side.
Mm.
You know how you do a vessel with the oil and water in it, and I lit it from the side.
Okay.
Just yeah.
Cool.
So Josh, that judge said it was a softball. Was that a softball or a hard ball?
Baseball. That's a baseball.
Yeah.
It's a baseball. It was a literal curveball because the competition was curved, so it's a literal curveball.
I knew those stitches. That wasn't a softball.
Nah, it's a baseball. Yeah, I was just walking out. It was weird. I just walked out into my backyard, and this like little beam of light was hitting a baseball laying in my backyard, and I ran and grabbed my camera and took about 30 photos trying to play with the composition. Yeah, the banana one took a little more work.
That was your banana?
Completely unappreciated.
Yeah, I got a 68 on creativity. I'm like, really? Okay.
Wow.
3 light setup. Okay.
Gene,
that's cool.
Are you still here, Gene?
Yeah, we want to talk about this one too. Good.
Yes.
Thanks, Mark.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it works. Okay. Yeah. So I was doing the board COVID thing, and I'm like, what in the world do I have in my house? So I go into the furnace closet and there's some loose stuff in there. So that silver stuff is like, dryer vent, building materials. So I didn't have the plasma ball handy for the center. So it wound up being this green marble and a CD, but it was really my thoughts on thermonuclear fusion. I wanted the technology to like come
Very
along,
creative, very nice.
come along a little faster here, in light of our energy crisis.
Fantastic. We certainly got the theme, and
yeah, it was fun. It was fun to do.
very creative.
Yeah.
Any others people want to talk about?
I don't know. I'm feeling kind of jilted though, because Steven has won now with 2 photos where I was holding the light wand just off camera.
Well, you must be a great lighting expert.
But apparently I can't take a photo for nothing, but I can light really well. It's all good.
Mark,
Yeah.
do you know how the judge came to the final numbers? If there was weighting of the 5 themes, because some of the numbers really made no sense for the final number versus the 5 categories. There was one that had a final number of 60, and every one of the 5 categories was 60 or higher. So it wasn't like it was an average.
All of them were like that.
Yeah, there were quite a few. I just don't understand.
Oh,
how they were weighted.
That's Visual Pursuits. If you set the score first, you can go back and put individual categories different. It's not an average.
Yeah. We do, okay, when we do them as averages for our judges. I set it that way, but it wasn't set that way for this judge. She had full control. In the future, and this was an oversight on my part. So in the future, if we have this, I'll make sure that they're set for averages. But that's the way she wanted the final score to be.
Yeah, on my pictures, she picked my lowest score for the overall rating one.
Yeah.
So
I think
there were a few like that. There were also others that the final score was higher than any of the individual numbers.
Yeah, I'll confess, I didn't even pick up on that. I didn't look at it that closely. But she had control over the final scores. There's not much I would be able to do anyway. But in the future, I'm going to try to make sure those average, that they actually do reflect the average score.
So is the next competition going to be judged?
I'm sorry?
Hold on. We have Patty and Hatham talking. Want to
Go ahead,
first?
Patty.
Go ahead, Patty.
One thing I'd say about that is those, 6 specs, they're not really, they shouldn't necessarily be weighted equally anyway.
Yeah.
And I think what they probably did was take in some other considerations that aren't just listed in those hard, cold numbers.
Yeah.
And instead of going back, like sort of choosing, ranking, she probably ranked the photos the way she really wanted them. And then instead of going back and then adjusting the scores, to manipulate them, she left them. But just
Well, I forgot to mention she's Hatham's sister, but yeah.
Hatham, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to ask, is the next competition going to be judged by PSA as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to give it a couple months run to see how we like it to test.
Well, let me ask here. Do you want me to force them to average it, or, to make the final score the average, or do you care? I mean, look, I say.
I think they should average it. I think they should average it because then it will make sense when you review the scores.
That would be my.
Not wondering how they came up with the score.
That would be my initial thought.
I can tell you how I judge, if it just gets. I mean, I've done it a few times. maybe more than a few, but I usually go in and I don't add any numbers first. I just go in and when you're judging, you can just move the files around as a rank. And then I just, whatever I think the best photo is, I start with, it gets the highest score, and then I kind of work my way down. But I order them by rank first, and then I apply scores. But then I'll do overall scores first, and then I'll go back and kind of. So actually, I'd probably do it the same way she does, because I apply overall scores first and then go back. So I could see how they don't really match, because sometimes sometimes a photo is more than the sum of its parts. And so I can see, yeah, I mean, sometimes, it's not creative, but it's really well done, right? Or sometimes it's very creative, but you could see a little, so it's not, I think for me, like when I'm judging, emotional impact is the biggest, right? Like, I think how the photo hits you, like if it gives you force, then, it's funny. Like if we would go back and look at like Bresson or somebody like that, his photos aren't sharp, right? They're not critically in focus, but they hit you. And so to me, that's kind of what I'm trying to judge by, is like how a photo hits me. That's its overall score. And then its parts, then we can talk about the parts, but I don't think they necessarily equate to how the photo hits you, right? That's your overall score.
I agree with you. And I know it's not consistent with what we've been doing, and maybe we should change what we've been doing, but I'd like to give those judges full freedom to do what they want to do until we make a firm decision about what we really want.
Yeah.
We might learn something in the process.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, go ahead, Patty.
one thing I was sort of expecting and hoping for was a different system than we were using. The system that we use is more a crutch for people who maybe want more help with judging, and also trying to keep a consistency between 3 people doing it all each time. I was hoping for something a little bit looser, being that in theory they're more professional and more qualified to judge without a crutch, sort of like we did the presenters in the past.
Patty, that is absolutely an option. We could have them use the check boxes that show, to talk about technical parameters. They could skip the sliders and just give a score, and then use the text box, to say that, to describe their impression and why they ranked the picture the way they did. I'm wide open on that. I would like for us to get the most out of it. I think what I'll do next time is I'll have a discussion with the judge, and
I think that the problem people are having, or at least I'm having, is that sometimes the overall score was lower than any score in the composition. And you say, like, okay, maybe it's really well done creatively, so it gets 100 creatively, but it wasn't executed properly with lighting. And so you give it a 70 on lighting. Well, then theoretically the score should be somewhere between 70 and 100, even if you weight creativity is triple. And say,
I think makes most sense is ranking of at least the top 10 or so, because that's what's used to determine the actual outcome. And the other is some qualitative feedback. The quantitative numbers really are, I think it's kind of, to Patty's point, it's kind of a crutch. And I don't really get that much out of the number as much as I do the actual words to describe good or bad a particular aspect of the photo.
Well, I kind of think the other way, because not every judge is eloquent and use good words to describe their feedback. So it's hit and miss.
PSA to judge, I think we should expect that they are qualified to judge.
Right. Well, they may be qualified, but they may not be as articulate. The thing about the numbers are very valuable, because they tell me exactly where the judge saw a failing in the picture, or in the image or a good execution in the image. I mean, that's what I look for. I mean, and the words obviously are important, but not every judge is as articulate.
Well, except that obviously there were some other considerations she was putting in because she didn't use the numbers strictly.
Right. Well, that's what we're talking about. It would be better if the final result would be averaging the components rather than arbitrary. Then the components are meaningless.
And yeah, but not that it's arbitrary. There's other considerations that she's putting in, and I guess where I'm less personally, and this is just me, I'm less concerned with my score and getting getting an award, although I love when I do, but I'm more concerned about getting some quality feedback that really helps me with my photos.
Absolutely.
And the way it's set up, to me, I've lost what I used to have when we had judges that would give and very not arbitrary, but their opinions. I got more insights because there was a variety of ways of looking at it, where this sort of locks them into a very tight thing that I get every single time. And so to me, I'm not really getting what I want from judging.
So maybe I'm not familiar with the old method. Maybe somebody can explain it.
Oh, it used to be we'd have a guest speaker. We used to only have one meeting a month, and we would have a guest presenter, and they would also be the judge. And so, in some ways, it was similar in that you got one person's viewpoint, and they gave verbal critiques to every photo submitted. And it would be, I think at the time we were getting maybe up to like 50 to 60 photos. And so then we split out, at some point we split out competition night from speaker night. But the original setup, it kind of solved a couple problems. Yeah, it was a long meeting. It usually went from like 7 to 10, 7 to 9:30, and then the church would kick us out. But it was cool because the speaker was the judge most of the time, not always, but most of the time. And so every month you were getting a very different perspective of the work, kind of like what PSA is doing now. But it was somebody that we had brought in to.
So how is this different from what Pat's saying? I'm not getting the difference.
Say that again, Hatham. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm saying how's what they just did different from what you just said?
There wasn't a rubric. There was just it was just rank. So no scoring, no rubric. It was just the speaker ranked them in an order. And that's how how you got points, was where you ended up in the rank. And then they just tried to say, it was very informal. And they just tried to say something interesting about the photo or.
Yeah, I think the score by itself is not really the most important thing. It's the feedback. I agree with Patty.
Yeah.
But the question is, how do you convey that feedback, either quantitatively or qualitatively? Right?
Well, I think if you dictate that they have to use the averages, that they're just going to back into it. They're going to do sort of what Josh does and rank the photos and say, this is a 90. And now how do I make these scores add up to 90?
That's exactly what I do. But I try to do it in tiers, right? So like for me, like I'll be very honest about what I do. Like when I'm judging, like I pick the best photo and I start there, and that usually gets somewhere between like a 90 and a 95. And then everything that's on that tier will be like a 95, 93, 92, 91. And then once there's like a break in tier, like what I feel is like a group, and then I'll start like at 85 and work my way down and start at like a C-level photo, which is actually what happens a lot at, like, I've judged 4-H competitions. They're really exciting, let me tell you. But it'll be like 100 photos on a table, prints on a table, and you have to give them a red, a white, or a blue, or a best in show. And so we're usually like huge tables, like 4 8-foot tables, and we're just ranking them all. And so that's just kind of what I've done a lot of. So that's mentally, I guess, where
Maybe
I go.
maybe we could do a survey and see what the club members that participate, what type of feedback they prefer or find most useful,
Sure.
to their photography and their improvement of skills. Like, if I submit a photo and the judge, hated it, I want to know what they hate about it and what would make it better. And I want to have that feedback come back to me in an actionable way, not just, hey, I hated it, this sucks. That's just not useful.
Right.
Well,
I would rather they hate it or they love it. The feedback I was like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I want love or hate. I don't want meh.
Yeah, I wanted to throw in a comment here on the averaging versus the categories. I'd like to point out that if you look at PPA, for example, they have 12 criteria, and that's double what we're currently using in this group. It's possible that you could use 5 or 6 criteria and average them and get a different number from the overall score, because there are other elements that are not incorporated into our judging system that might be taken into account by a judge. For example, I don't think story is mentioned anywhere in our system. And I think story is a real big part of an image and its impact. And there are others as well. So I was leaning towards the idea of forcing the average by our guest judge, but now I'm not so sure I want to do that. I do like that she wrote comments on all the images. I think that's extremely helpful. And I agree with everybody else here that having verbal feedback is good. One of the things that we do in our group is everybody gets to comment on every image. It's one of the things that I think is different from what you guys are doing and here at NAPfS. So there's places for that can be taken advantage of. I will also say here, Josh, that I'm going to disagree with your mechanism, because when I started my first effort, and I will be the first to admit that my first effort was harsh. I know it was harsh. I go back and change it. It was harsh, okay? And I learned a lot, and I thank you all for your patience, because I realized what I did was not the way I need to do it. And I've learned that, first of all, like you say, go back and rank. I'm not going to hand out a 90 to the one that's in the first of the rank, though, because there are verbal descriptions of the categories. 90s should be exceptional images. And if there's not an exceptional image there, nobody gets a 90. The top one should be the top ranking based on the quality of that image, and work your way down from there. So just handing out 90s doesn't do anybody any good, because they don't learn from that. I don't think you should tell somebody they've done a great job when they haven't done a great job. If they've done a good job, a very good job, or an admirable job, I think there's more value in being honest with that, again, from one person's opinion, than just handing out a ranking saying, you get a 90 because you were first in the list. Well, yeah. My opinion.
No, it's fair. And I mean, I don't always start there, right? So
I know, I'm working with your example. I know.
I'm agreeing with you, though, in the sense that, like, sometimes my first is an 85. Sometimes it's a 95, right? To me, it's like, is this an A quality photo? Is this a B quality photo? Is this a C? And then go from there.
Yeah, and I didn't do that. I didn't do that in my first effort. And I realized it was a mistake, and I feel bad.
Judging's hard, y'all. Like, no lie. Like, it is not. I think the biggest question we have to ask ourselves is, what can we do so that we get information to make ourselves better photographers?
Someone needs to mute.
What is that?
I don't know.
I think someone's on the phone.
I think all of this is based around, and we've seen it, right? We all want to improve and get better in our work, right? That's why we're here. And so the judging is a tool to help us get better, to get that feedback, to get better at our work. I mean, and to be, I've said this every time, but trust me, when this club started, the advanced class then wouldn't place in basic now. And the people that have been in this group for a while, look, that advanced class, there was 10 photos at least that would be hanging on people's walls, no problem. Like, people you don't know, not just your family. You know what I mean? Like, they're that good.
Well,
And-
who are these people and how can I sell to them?
I'll send you a list.
For 1995, he'll send you a list.
I want to say something in defense of the current system, not because I'm married to it, but one, okay, we go through, it allows you to check box everything from, composition to lighting to all that stuff's there. And if the judges are doing their job, they should be checking those appropriately when something is either very good or really needs improvement. Two, the text box, the free text box, is the judge's impression in words. And that's what Patty's asking for. I don't know what's not there that she wants to hear. If so, then we need to pass that information on to the judges so that they will incorporate, whatever we're missing in those free statements. The sliders, Gary is right. Those sliders were kind of arbitrary. Well, I took them from the 12 elements that PPA puts out, but I had to squeeze them into 6 sliders because that's all they gave me in this program. So you'll see that several of them have multiple criteria in them. Some have been changed several times over the period. We used to have one that said has a great story or meets the theme. I don't know if that's been changed in the last few months, but I'm all up for changing those. If anybody wants to look at those 6 sliders and find a better way to use them, that's fine. We could drop the sliders altogether. That's fine. But I think that the checkboxes and the open text and the final ranking are the important things.
Yeah. The overall ranking and then the text box to me are the 2 most important because that determines where you stand, right? And then, the explanation of why you're there or how it could have been improved, right?
I like the idea of not averaging. You have, this photo is a 89, but maybe it's super sharp and focused and you get 100% on that. But, the overall picture is an 89. So I like that idea.
Yeah. Have y'all heard my dentist photo analogy? Not Dennis Bosserman photo, dentist. A lot of times, I don't know why, it's just dentist because that's what happens a lot, but really great equipment. Photos are really great. There's nothing technically wrong with them. Well exposed, pretty good composition, everything's sharp, but like they don't say anything. And sometimes those photos get judged really high because they check all the boxes except the one that really matters, which is impact, right? How it hits you. And so
it's kind of the quantitative versus qualitative aspects of the photo. And that's where the balance is, and that's hard to come up. I prefer a more qualitative feel of what the judge's opinion is, and screw all the numbers. I don't care anything about numbers. But those characteristics do play into how does the qualitative mesh with the other aspects, and that's the art of it.
Yeah, a lot of it is it gives it a vocabulary to talk about, right? It's like, are we agreeing upon sets of words that mean something so that we can talk about the photos? For me, what I want to hear is I want to hear their stance, right? What's your stance on the photo in front of you? How does it make you feel? What's your physical reaction to it? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but like great stand-up comedians have a stance on a topic. And that's what I want to hear from judges is like, what's their stance? Like, I don't need to be told it's sharp, honestly. Like, I know it is, or I know it isn't. And either way, if I'm submitting it, I don't care. But how does the photo hit me? That's what I care about, right?
Like, add that to the rubric, right? Say,
that's what emotional impact is supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
That should be story, narrative, emotional. That's what emotional impact is conveying.
So we're back to the score should be somewhere between the lowest score and the highest score of that. Not necessarily an average, but somewhere in between those 2 numbers.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to imagine that you would have a.
Hey, it's getting pretty late.
Thanks, Clay.
You hadn't noticed the time. We are losing people, and I wanted to give Don Simpson an opportunity to tell us what he's going to do on March the 18th. Don, Can you unmute and tell us, and then you can carry on this discussion.
Screen sharing. Mark, stop screen sharing.
Yeah. Let me, there we go. How's that?
Ready? I did speak at the last meeting at the end. Many of you had left, so I'll keep it kind of brief, but I don't know how many people are aware of a photographer in New York, Jay Maisel. And he had written a book a few years ago called Light, Gesture, Color. And I was intrigued by gesture, so I purchased his book, read through it, and then started looking at my own images and thinking, gee whiz, there is something here. And I heard a couple of times tonight things about story in photo or impact of a photo. And that's really where gesture comes in. So I put together a lecture based on trying to define what is gesture and how can it improve your photo. And I belong to a faith-based organization, and we were having a conversation about one of the problems with our world today is words. Words kind of get in the way and they get misconstrued and misinterpreted. So could we create impact stories that can speak to everybody of every kind with our photography with no words involved whatsoever? And so they asked me if I would come in and lecture about that. And then since then, I've done it with a couple of other clubs. And my objective is not to just come in there and say, okay, here's all my best photography. It's picking photos that can explain gesture and what it is. So I look at it as I teach classes in composition, you know, the typical 17 compositional styles, and teach why you use it and how you use it and how you construct it. I consider this more advanced than that. So I think it fit the bill. Mark, who I spoke with, had said that he had actually seen him lecture and he was familiar with the work, and he thought it would be an interesting thing to put before the group.
Yep.
Fantastic. Jay, if you have never seen Jay Maisel's work, it's fantastic.
Yeah. He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, he carries a camera with him, the same camera, same lens. That's all he carries with him, and walks the streets of New York and comes up with some of the most phenomenal photography I've ever seen.
And he uses very polite language.
Oh, no, I'm not going to use language. Sorry.
No, I know.
But he commanded in his day, he commanded, you know, he had that bank building in New York, and he commanded $5,000 a week for his workshops because I was going to attend one of them. They start at 7 in the morning and they go to 10 at night for 5 straight days. People I talked to that went there said it was worth the 5,000. I chose to differ with that opinion. So I bought his book instead. I have a few of them. He's got 6 or 7 books out there, and the 2 that I have are quite good.
Yeah, we need to start a book list or like a book club. I have a bunch of photo books too that if anybody's read The Road to Seeing by Dan Winters, phenomenal.
There's also a couple of Jay Maisel classes on Kelby 1 with Scott Kelby and Jay Maisel, if you're a member.
Yeah, they go to France and they talk to each other and stuff like that. But it was interesting to just take apart his, so like the first 15 minutes of the lecture is more textual to try to set the base. And then the rest of will be all photos and trying to explain what's going on. Cool. It's again, like you said, even with judges, I've done a lot of judging as well. And Josh, you'll be interested to know, since probably for 5 years, I've judged the 4-H stuff. They're now up to 360 photos and 11 categories to score. Yeah. And I've had to judge all the way up to best in show. And I tell you, that's brutal. So one year I said, I'm going to help. I volunteered for a whole year to teach those kids. I couldn't do it after a while. It was brutal. I had a 5-year-old girl running up to me going, Mister, and I'm trying to teach to a class over here.
Yeah. I've got roped into 2 different counties that I do their 4-H judging. Yeah.
It's hard, but I can tell you there's some 7-year-olds that produce better photos than the 18-year-olds, but I got to believe they're not shooting them. But Oh,
Prove that.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. That's it. See you next week.
All right. Thanks, Don.
You bet.
All right. Hey guys, if y'all
Good
get
night,
a
everybody.
hey, if y'all get a chance, go check out West Pecan Coffee. Go get a coffee there. Go look at the print. It's really cool space. I was just there Tuesday. The photos look good. They look real good hanging up. It was fun watching people's reaction to them. People would walk in and you could kind of see them like double take. So I just kind of sit back and watch. So rarely do we get to see our work hanging in a public space. I think we kind of take it for granted maybe a little bit when it is up. So if you get a chance, just go and just kind of sit there and watch people for a little bit. It's real fun. So.
okay. Thank y'all for coming. Judges, thanks for all your help.
Yep.
And, we'll see everybody
Good night.
in 2 weeks. And don't forget, we have early deadline for next competition.
Not all.
Everyone.
See ya.